In South Africa, the judge leading an inquiry into claims of influence peddling against former President Jacob Zuma has urged more witnesses to come forward. The inquiry stems from a 2016 report by the country's anti-graft body. Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will review allegations that the controversial Gupta family unduly influenced Zuma in political appointments and the awarding of government contracts. It is still unclear whether the former president or the Gupta brothers will appear before the inquiry. The Commission has no authority to take judicial action, but has the power to make recommendations for prosecution. Zuma and the Guptas deny all claims of influence peddling and corruption. South Africans have welcomed the inquiry.
It's important that we find out who's the culprits and that recommendations by the inquiry can be made, and that we in a year or 2 years' time can put this state capture behind us.
It is important for the country to know what went on, because the name of the former president now and then is mentioned in the state capture.
Well, Angelo Coppola is following the inquiry. He's joining me now from Johannesburg. Angelo, so how are the proceedings going on so far?
Well, look, Beatrice, it's early days. The proceedings have been underway for just over 2 hours. The key question that the commissioners and the judge want answered is whether there are any weaknesses in the government's procurement framework and those processes, and whether state capture has been enabled or permitted. They turned to National Treasury official and acting Chief Procurement Officer, that's one Willie Matebula, to provide the technical insight into that system. And he's currently outlining the procurement processes and also the rules at National Treasury. Matebula does say, though, that the state spends in the region of around $60 billion annually on goods and services, and most of those contracts are actually transversal contracts, which allows the government then to obtain benefits of scale by negotiating centrally to make sure they get the best benefits from those suppliers. We have been told that he's not a hostile witness and is preparing the foundation for the Commission's main work. Beatrice?
Well, Angelo, how many witnesses have been lined up so far, and have any more come forward following the judge's request on Monday?
Well, look, it's the start of the actual phase one, as the judge called it. Currently, it's Willie Matebula, who's the Chief Procurement Officer. Next up is Faiki Mentor, who's an ex-ranking ANC member who was allegedly offered a cabinet position by one of the members of the Gupta family. And then there's Pamela Williams, who heads up the Government Information Service. We've no word if any witnesses have raised their hands following Judge Zondo's call yesterday. I'm, of course, excluding those who believe that they may be implicated in evidence given by these three first witnesses, which also includes ex-Public Enterprises Minister Lynn Brown. She stood up or made mention yesterday that she wants to be given an opportunity to actually appear, and that's because she believes that she may be implicated in evidence that's presented by one or all three of these witnesses. The judge hasn't publicly reacted to Brown's request just yet, Beatrice.
Well, is it known if former President Jacob Zuma and the Guptas will appear, though?
Well, look, he's been invited to give evidence. Mr. Zuma's legal team yesterday indicated that they want to take part in the inquiry, but they need more time to evaluate the evidence that's been presented to the Commission. So they want to determine whether and what Mr. Zuma's involvement is going to be. The Commission can, of course, compel Mr. Zuma to appear because they have it within its powers. But analysts say this is going to be a kind of an acid test and the main test for Judge Zondo, and see what his resolve's like if Mr. Zuma decides to play hardball. As you know, he steadfastly denied using his office or in fact receiving any information that he's then passed on that could benefit himself, his family, his friends or his associates. As to the Guptas, well, they've been flying under the radar for the last couple of months since they abandoned their upmarket Johannesburg compound. We do know that they aren't likely to appear because they are not in the country at the moment. Only one member of the Gupta family has appeared in court in relation to the deal in the Free State around the Estina farm. So we're going to have to wait and see whether the Commission has the power to enforce possibly an extradition order to get that implicated family member back to South Africa to appear. So early days, and it's going to play out over the next 6 to 12 months, in fact, Beatrice.
All right, Angelo Coppola for us there in Johannesburg.